So, to kick off this deep dive, I want you to picture a story about a tech executive.
Hmm.
A guy who literally patented key components for Wi-Fi routers back when he was, like, in his 20s.
Right, which is just insane to think about, setting the foundation for modern internet before hitting 30.
Exactly. So he starts multiple companies, sells them off, and he achieves the kind of wealth that, most people just physically cannot fathom.
Millions upon millions.
Yeah, multi-millions. And he was not quiet about it at all.
Oh, definitely not.
No. So picture him at this extremely high-end luxury hotel in Los Angeles. He's walking around carrying this stack of $100 bills that is literally several inches thick.
Just casually carrying it around?
Just casually flashing it to anyone who will look. Openly bragging about his wealth to total strangers, usually while, drinking pretty heavily.
Which, I mean, that paints a very specific psychological profile right there.
Yeah.
You have someone who possesses this extreme, almost genius-level technical intelligence, but they're using their wealth entirely as a performance metric. It's an ego play.
100% an ego play. And the performance escalates to a point of just pure absurdity. So one day, this brilliant executive hands a hotel worker a few $1,000s in cash.
Just hands it to a random worker.
Yeah. And he tells him to go down to a local jewelry store and buy a handful of solid gold coins. $1,000 gold coins.
Oh, wow.
Right. So the worker does it, comes back, hands in the coins, and an hour later, this tech genius and his buddies gather around a dock facing the Pacific Ocean.
I think I know where this is going, and it makes my stomach hurt.
It's so bad. They proceed to throw these solid gold coins into the water. Like they are literally skipping $1,000 gold coins across the ocean like flat stones.
He's skipping them.
Skipping them, laughing hysterically, arguing about who got the most skips before the coins sank to the bottom of the Pacific.
I mean, throwing literal capital into the ocean just for a temporary hit of dopamine.
Yeah.
That has to be the absolute zenith of financial recklessness.
It really is. And I want you to hold that image in your mind. The gold coins sinking into the Pacific. Because I want to introduce a completely different person now.
Okay, let's pivot.
Yeah. A man named Ronald Read. He was born in rural Vermont, very humble guy. Spent most of his life working as a janitor and a gas station attendant.
A very standard working class life.
Very standard. He was actually the first person in his entire family to even graduate from high school. And he had to hitchhike to campus every single day just to make that happen.
Wow. So two completely radically different universes here.
Exactly. You have the high-flying tech genius in L.A. throwing gold, and you have the rural Vermont janitor sweeping floors.
And, on paper, society tells us exactly how those two lives are supposed to play out financially, right?
Right. The genius builds an empire, and the janitor struggles to get by.
Exactly. It's supposed to be a meritocracy based on raw intellect.
But reality just completely flips the script on that, because years later, that tech genius who was skipping the gold coins, he went completely bankrupt.
Lost everything.
Lost every single cent. Meanwhile, Ronald Read, the janitor, he died in 2014 at the age of 92. And when he passed away, it actually made international headlines.
Which is wild for a retired janitor.
Right. And it made headlines because he left behind a fortune of over $8 million.
$8 million.
Yeah.
From sweeping floors and pumping gas.
Yeah. Let's just put that into perspective for a second. In 2014, roughly 2.8 million Americans passed away. Out of all of them, fewer than 4,000 had a net worth of over $8 million.
So he was in, the top fractional percent of wealth in the entire country.
Exactly. And he didn't win the lottery. He didn't inherit a dime from anyone. He simply saved whatever little he could from his really modest paychecks, put it into stable blue chip companies, and then
Then he just waited.
he just waited for decades.
The juxtaposition of those two lives completely dismantles how we're taught to think about success.
It really does.
We treat wealth generation like it's this branch of mathematics or physics, like there are hard laws to it.
Right. Like if you can memorize the formula, you win.
Exactly. We assume that if you have a massive IQ and you understand complex algorithms, you will automatically be wealthy, and if you don't, you won't. But this proves that's just not true.
Which means financial success isn't a hard science at all. It's a soft skill.
A behavioral skill.
Yes. It has very little to do with how smart you are, and almost everything to do with how you behave. I mean, a genius who loses control of their emotions is a financial disaster waiting to happen.
A disaster with gold coins.
Right. But an ordinary person with literally zero formal financial education can become incredibly wealthy if they just master a few basic behavioral skills.
And that's exactly what we're looking at today. We are diving into the psychology of money. We really want to explore these blind spots that, separate the people who go broke from the people who build lasting independence.
Right. And to do that, it requires a total paradigm shift.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because if intelligence doesn't guarantee success, we have to look at the invisible forces that actually govern these outcomes. And that brings us to probably the two most misunderstood concepts in life.
Luck and risk.
Luck and risk.
So, okay, let's unpack this, because I can hear people getting defensive already.
Oh, absolutely. It's a touchy subject.
It is. If I'm working 80-hour weeks, putting my blood, sweat, and tears into building a business or, advancing my career, telling me my outcome is dictated by luck feels like a huge slap in the face.
It feels dismissive.
Yeah, it feels like an excuse that lazy people use to justify their own failures.
And that is a very natural reaction. Pushing back on the concept of luck makes sense because acknowledging it strips away a little bit of our agency. It makes us feel out of control.
Right.
But we have to look at the actual mechanics of the world we live in. You are one person, and you are playing a game with 7 billion other people, navigating an infinite number of moving parts.
So it's literally impossible to control every variable.
Exactly. The accidental impact of actions completely outside of your control can be vastly more consequential than the conscious actions you take. It is a mathematical impossibility for 100% of your outcomes to be dictated by 100% of your actions.
Right. So it's not that hard work doesn't matter. Obviously, it matters a lot.
Yes, of course.
It's that hard work doesn't guarantee a strict one-to-one specific result.
It just shifts the odds in your favor.
Yeah, exactly. Think about it like driving a car. You can be the safest driver in the world, right? Perfectly sober, obeying every speed limit, checking every blind spot twice.
Right. You are doing everything perfectly.
That is your hard work and your skill. But you cannot control the drunk driver who runs a red light 3 blocks away and T-bones you in an intersection.
You never even saw them coming.
Right. Risk is the reality that the world can impact you regardless of how skilled you are.
And luck is the exact same mechanism, just moving in the opposite direction.
Wait, how do you mean?
Well, luck is just the reality that a positive outcome can happen that is completely disproportionate to your individual effort. But we have this terrible habit as a society of judging outcomes rather than processes.
Oh, yes, I see what you mean.
Imagine 2 people flipping a coin, okay? They both decide to bet their entire life savings on heads.
Which is an objectively terrible, reckless bet.
Horrible bet. Don't do that. But the coin is flipped. Person A gets heads and doubles their money. Person B gets tails and loses everything.
Right.
Now, society looks at person A and calls them a visionary risk taker.
We put them on the cover of Forbes magazine.
Exactly. And then we look at person B and call them an absolute idiot. But their process was exactly the same. They both made a stupid bet.
That dynamic is everywhere in the business world, isn't it?
Everywhere.
We praise the reckless investor who made a wildly risky bet and just happened to land on heads. And we completely ignore the wise investor who made a fantastic, calculated decision with an 80% chance of success.
But who simply landed in the unlucky 20% side of the curve.
Exactly. We write them off as a failure.
Which creates a really dangerous feedback loop for successful people. Peter Gates actually made a brilliant observation about this. He said, success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose.
Oh, wow. That perfectly explains the tech executive skipping the gold coins.
Yes, because if you build a massive company in your 20s, it's incredibly easy to assume you possess some godlike intuition.
You start believing you're invincible.
You lose that sober statistical lens completely. You think every time you flip a coin, it's going to be heads because you're the one flipping it.
Right, right.
Look at how we view physical risk versus financial risk. Take mountain climbing, for example.
Okay.
There are roughly 36 mountain climbing deaths in the U.S. every year. If you are a high school student, the baseline odds of dying on a mountain are roughly 1 in a million. It's incredibly rare.
Very low odds.
But if someone does die on a mountain, we don't say they were stupid. We understand that risk is simply the unfortunate side of the probability equation. They hit the 1 in a million.
Yeah, we have empathy for them.
But in finance, we don't extend that grace at all. If someone goes bankrupt, we automatically assume it's a moral failure or lack of intelligence. We don't say they hit the 1 in a million bad luck.
But if it's all so random, if luck and risk are literally just 2 sides of the same coin, how does that actually change how we should operate day to day. Like, what is the practical application of staring into this abyss of probability?
The practical application is radical empathy, both for others and for yourself.
Radical empathy.
Yeah. Acknowledging the heavy role of luck makes us far less judgmental of other people's failures. And crucially, it makes us so much more forgiving of our own.
That's a huge point.
Right. When things are going incredibly well for you, actively recognizing luck prevents that dangerous, arrogant assumption that you are infallible. It acts as a buffer against overconfidence.
And when things go poorly, recognizing risk prevents you from internalizing that failure as, a lack of personal worth.
Exactly. It helps you realize that sometimes you made a genuinely good decision and you just landed in the 20%.
You got unlucky.
You got unlucky. And knowing that allows you to brush off the dust, forgive yourself, and keep playing the game without falling into total despair.
Because without that buffer, without a healthy respect for luck, we become arrogant.
And arrogance leads directly into the next massive psychological trap we need to talk about.
Oh, the fatal flaw.
The fatal flaw of not knowing when to stop. The danger of never having enough.
Yes. This transitions us from the mechanics of probability to the really dark, obsessive side of human ambition. Let's talk about figures like Rajat Gupta or Bernie Madoff.
Perfect examples.
Because these were not desperate people trying to feed their families, right?
Yeah.
Gupta was on the board of Goldman Sachs. He had hundreds of millions of dollars.
He had unimaginable wealth.
He had prestige, philanthropic influence, access to presidents. He had literally won capitalism, yet he engaged in insider trading. He committed federal crimes to get more.
It really forces us to ask a deeply uncomfortable question about human psychology. Why would someone who already has more money than they could possibly spend in a dozen lifetimes risk federal prison, total public humiliation, and the destruction of their legacy for an extra marginal fraction of wealth?
It's the ultimate foolishness. Risking something you already have and desperately need, like your freedom, your reputation, your family.
In order to get something you don't have and don't actually need.
Right. If you have $100 million, an extra $5 million literally does not change your lifestyle. You can't eat a richer meal. You can't sleep on a softer bed. The math breaks down entirely.
The math breaks down, absolutely.
Okay.
But the psychology is functioning exactly as evolution designed it to.
What do you mean?
We are hardwired for social comparison. The goalpost in our minds is not anchored to a fixed number, it's anchored to the people around us.
Oh, I see.
When your expectations rise in perfect tandem with your results, there is no logical endpoint. You take one step forward, your peer group changes, and the goalpost moves 2 steps away.
It's like stepping onto a treadmill where the speed automatically increases every time you try to jog comfortably.
That is exactly what it's like.
You can never actually catch your breath. The millionaire looks at the multimillionaire looks at the billionaire.
And even Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest humans to ever exist, could theoretically look at a younger tech billionaire and feel the sting of comparison. The latter literally has no top rung.
That sounds exhausting. So social comparison is basically an unwinnable game.
Completely unwinnable. The only way to win it is to recognize the trap and refuse to play. You have to step off the ladder entirely.
Which is easier said than done.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Because doing that requires defining a very specific, highly personal concept. The concept of enough.
And enough gets a really bad rap. People hear that word and they think it means settling. They think it means embracing poverty or, having no ambition whatsoever.
Right. They see it as giving up.
But that's not it at all. Having enough means realizing that an insatiable appetite for more will eventually push you to the point of profound regret.
Like eating at a buffet.
Yes. It's exactly like a buffet. You can be hungry and the food can be absolutely delicious.
Right.
But if you don't recognize when you've had enough, you will keep eating until you are physically sick.
And the pursuit of that next bite eventually destroys the enjoyment of the entire meal.
Exactly.
That is a perfect framework for auditing your own life right now. Are you currently risking your time, your family relationships, your physical health, or just your peace of mind for a financial goal you don't actually need to survive or be happy?
Are you burning yourself out just to move your own personal goalpost?
Right, because the inability to deny the potential of the next dollar will always catch up with you.
But why is the urge to keep eating at the buffet so strong? Like, why are we so desperate to constantly upgrade our lifestyles, buy the bigger house, get the flashier car?
It comes down to a massive fundamental blind spot in how we perceive wealth and social admiration.
We think buying expensive things will make people respect us.
Exactly. But there's a phenomenon that completely shatters that illusion. It's called the man in the car paradox.
Oh, this is arguably one of the most brilliant psychological insights into consumer behavior I've ever heard.
It really is. So picture this scenario. You're walking down the street, maybe sitting at an outdoor cafe having a coffee.
Okay.
And a $300,000 custom Ferrari pulls up to the stoplight.
Nice car.
Beautiful car. The engine is roaring. The paint is gleaming. Now, when you see that car, you almost never look at the person behind the wheel and think, wow, the person driving that car is so cool. I really admire them.
Never.
You don't think they must be incredibly smart.
No, you look at the car.
Exactly. You admire the engineering, the aesthetic, and the paradox is you immediately imagine yourself in the driver's seat of that car.
Oh, man. That is so true.
You assume that if you were driving it, everyone on the street would be looking at you with admiration and respect.
So the driver bought the Ferrari specifically because they thought it would bring them admiration.
Right.
But the reality is that onlookers don't admire the driver at all. Onlookers just use the driver's wealth as a benchmark for their own desire to be liked and admired.
Precisely. No one is as impressed with your possessions as you are.
That needs to be internalized by everyone listening. No one is as impressed with your possessions as you are.
It's a harsh truth.
It is. You think you're buying respect, but you're really just buying a shiny mirror that reflects other people's desires back at themselves. You are spending a fortune to be a prop in someone else's fantasy.
And falling for that illusion leads directly into the most crucial distinction in personal finance.
Yeah.
We conflate two words that we treat as synonyms, but they're actually complete opposites.
Being rich versus being wealthy.
Yes. Confusing those two is the root cause of countless catastrophic money decisions.
Okay, let's break down the mechanics of those two words. Because when someone says, I want to be a millionaire, what they usually mean is, I want to spend $1 million.
Right. They want the lifestyle.
They want to buy $1 million worth of stuff. But
Right.
the act of spending $1 million is literally the exact opposite of being a millionaire.
Exactly. It's subtracting $1 million from your net worth.
Right.
Being rich simply refers to current, highly visible income. If someone is driving that $300,000 Ferrari, they might be rich. They might have a massive monthly income.
Or they might just be drowning in debt.
Exactly. You have absolutely no idea. But the only absolute mathematically certain data point, when you see someone driving a $300,000 car, is that they now have $300,000 less in their bank account than they did before they bought it.
That is the only fact you have.
Right. Rich is what you see, the jewelry, the first-class upgrades, the massive houses. It's visible.
But wealth.
Yes.
Wealth is what you don't see. Wealth is the $300,000 car that wasn't purchased. Wealth is the diamond ring left in the display case. Wealth is the unspent income. It's the financial assets, the stocks, the bonds, the index funds that haven't yet been converted into visible stuff.
The author Bill Bryson has a fantastic observation about how hard it is to lose weight, which maps perfectly onto this concept.
Oh, it's the ultimate analogy.
Go ahead, lay it out.
Think about turning down a massive, decadent dessert at a restaurant.
Like a huge piece of chocolate cake.
Exactly. It takes a tremendous amount of willpower. You have to literally choose not to indulge your immediate desires today in order to have the invisible long-term benefit of health tomorrow.
Right.
Saving money works the exact same way. Wealth is the skipped dessert. Saving money is creating a gap between what you could buy right now and what you choose to buy.
And this creates a very unique, frustrating societal problem.
How so?
Because true wealth is invisible. Because it's the money sitting quietly in a brokerage account, not the shiny watch on a wrist. It is incredibly hard to find good role models.
Oh, that makes so much sense. It's like trying to learn how to build a house, but you're only allowed to look at the wallpaper and the paint.
Yes. You're never allowed to see the foundation, the framing, or the plumbing.
You can't see the restraint required to be truly wealthy because restraint, by definition, produces no visible artifact.
Exactly. Capitalism makes it incredibly easy to see people faking it, but it completely hides the people who are actually making it. You don't see Ronald Read sweeping the floors and quietly buying index funds.
You only see the guy with the gold coins.
Right. Which brings us back to the ego. Saving money is simply creating a gap between your ego and your income.
Okay, I love that phrasing.
When you stop caring what other people think of you, your desire to spend money just to show off drops precipitously. You can save just for the sake of saving.
You don't need a specific goal like a new car or a down payment to save for.
No. You save to buy yourself an invisible shield against the absolute unpredictability of the world.
Okay, let's follow that thread. Let's say you've mastered your ego. You aren't buying the Ferrari. You've embraced the invisibility of wealth, and you are quietly stacking cash and buying broad market index funds.
You're doing everything right.
Yeah. How does just sitting on unspent money actually generate astronomical success over the long haul?
That brings us to the hidden mathematics of compounding and its absolute non-negotiable prerequisite, survival.
Survival.
Yes. If you ask me to distill all of financial theory, all of the textbooks and economic models down to one single word, that word would be survival.
Because there is a profound psychological distinction between getting money and keeping money. Right.
Completely different skill sets. They're entirely opposing temperaments.
Getting money requires taking risks. It requires optimism, putting yourself out there, launching the business, swinging for the fences.
But keeping money requires the exact opposite. It requires frugality. It requires a healthy, almost paranoid dose of fear. Yeah. And most importantly, it requires the humility to accept that at least part of your past success was due to luck, which means you absolutely cannot rely on past success to repeat itself indefinitely into the future.
Warren Buffett is always the ultimate case study here.
Always.
People dissect his life looking for the secret formula. They analyze his stock picks, his market timing, how he evaluates a balance sheet. But his real secret isn't his analytical brain.
Not at all.
If Warren Buffett had started investing at age 30 and retired at age 60, he would be a footnote in financial history. You probably wouldn't even know his name.
He'd just be a moderately wealthy guy.
Right. His absolute greatest superpower is time.
Time is the catalyst for the mathematics of compounding. Buffett has been investing consistently since he was a child. He is now in his 90s.
It's insane.
It is that longevity, the sheer uninterrupted decades he has been in the market, that makes the exponential curve of compounding look like literal magic.
To really grasp the mechanics of compounding, think about planting an oak tree. If you plant an acorn and you sit there watching it for a year, you aren't going to see much. It just looks like a fragile, tiny sapling. You could step on it and crush it without even noticing.
Right, it's very vulnerable.
Even after 5 years, it's not very impressive. But if you leave it alone for 50 years, it grows into this massive, unshakable giant. It creates its own ecosystem.
But compounding only works if an asset is given years to grow without being interrupted.
And what interrupts compounding?
Being forced to sell. That is why the survival mindset is the linchpin of everything. You have to arrange your financial life in a way that ensures a bear market, a recession, or a personal emergency doesn't force you to chop down your oak tree while it's still a sapling.
You have to stay in the game.
You have to stay in the game. And this fundamentally changes how we should look at cash.
Right, because a lot of sophisticated investors look at cash sitting in a bank account and think, oh, it's only earning 1 or 2% interest. Inflation is eating it. It's a drag on my portfolio.
I need to deploy it into the market immediately.
Exactly. But that is a flawed way of looking at the utility of money. Cash isn't an investment. Cash is oxygen.
I love that.
Yeah.
Cash is oxygen. Let's break down the mechanism of a forced sale to understand why that is.
Okay.
Imagine all your money is invested in the stock market.
Yeah.
Every penny. The market crashes by 40%.
Ouch.
And simultaneously, you lose your job, which often happens during a massive market crash. The economy shrinks.
Right.
You have rent to pay. You have to buy groceries. Because you have no cash buffer, you are forced to sell your stocks at a 40% loss just to keep a roof over your head.
So you've permanently locked in that loss.
Exactly. When the market recovers a year later, your money isn't there to recover with it. Your compounding is broken.
Yeah.
Chop down the sapling for firewood.
So the returns on holding cash aren't measured by the interest rate at all. If holding a cushion of cash prevents you from having to desperately sell your stocks during a crash, then the actual return on that cash is immeasurable.
Right. It didn't just earn 1%. It prevented a catastrophic, ill-timed sale that would have destroyed your future wealth.
It kept you alive.
Getting rich is about optimism. Staying rich is about paranoia. It's about recognizing that the universe is chaotic and you need a massive buffer.
But how do we practically build that buffer without becoming totally paralyzed by fear?
We do it by embracing Benjamin Graham's concept of the margin of safety, and by deeply understanding the difference between being rational and being reasonable.
Okay, let's talk about margin of safety. It's a beautiful engineering concept applied to finance.
Exactly.
If you're building a bridge, and the heaviest truck that will ever cross it weighs 10,000 pounds, engineers don't build the bridge to hold exactly 10,000 pounds.
No, that'd be insane.
Right. They build it to hold 30,000 pounds, not because they expect a 30,000-pound truck, but because they know their calculations might be slightly off.
Or the materials might degrade over time.
Or a freak storm might hit. They build a massive buffer because the cost of the bridge collapsing is total catastrophe.
And applying that to personal finance means recognizing that your spreadsheet forecasts of the future are inevitably flawed.
Right.
If your financial plan requires a 95% best-case scenario just for you to survive, like if you need the market to return exactly 8% every year and you need to never get sick and never lose your job, you are building a bridge with zero margin of safety.
You are constantly risking absolute ruin.
The purpose of a margin of safety is to render precise forecasting unnecessary.
Let's look at what happens when you rely entirely on cold, hard logic and ignore the margin of safety. There was a 2008 study by a pair of researchers from Yale.
Oh, this is a fascinating study.
It's wild. They published a paper arguing that young savers should use a 2-to-1 margin to buy stocks.
So just to explain the mechanics of that, 2-to-1 margin basically means using leverage or debt. If you have $10,000 of your own money, you borrow another $10,000 from your broker, and you invest a total of $20,000 in the stock market.
And the Yale researchers ran the historical models and argued that, from a purely mathematical standpoint, young people who used this strategy would end up with wealth that was 90% higher by retirement.
And on a piece of paper, in a sterile laboratory, the math checks out perfectly.
It does. It is entirely rational.
But in the real world, giving this advice to a normal human being is incredibly dangerous.
Because it completely ignores the mechanism of a margin call and the psychology of panic.
Exactly. If you invest $20,000 using 2-to-1 leverage and the stock market drops by 50%,
Right.
your portfolio is now worth $10,000.
But you still owe the broker the $10,000 you borrowed.
Right. The broker takes their money back instantly. You are left with absolute zero. You are completely wiped out.
And market drops of 50% are not theoretical. They happen. They happened in 2008. They happened in the 2000 dot-com bust.
And if you are wiped out to zero, you are removed from the game. Compounding stops forever.
And that perfectly illustrates the difference between being rational and being reasonable.
The computer model is rational.
Right.
A computer doesn't feel fear. A computer doesn't lose sleep. A computer doesn't have a spouse crying at the kitchen table because the retirement fund evaporated overnight.
But a human being needs to be reasonable. You cannot afford a 100% loss, ever.
It's like playing Russian roulette. The odds might heavily favor you. You have a 5 in 6 chance of winning. The upside might be massive.
But if the downside is total ruin, a bullet to the head, it does not matter how good the upside is.
No margin of safety can compensate for the risk of total ruin. Nassim Taleb summarizes this brilliantly. He says, you can love risk and completely reject ruin.
You can embrace volatility, you can invest aggressively in stocks, but you must structure your life with cash reserves and zero toxic debt so that you never, ever go to zero.
You have to be able to stay standing long enough for luck and compounding to do their work.
But staying standing is incredibly difficult because human beings are evolutionarily wired to panic.
We really are.
We are wired for pessimism. A 1% market drop is reported on the news in bold, blood-red letters. The sirens go off. Everyone panics. Why are we so drawn to financial doomsday predictions?
Why does pessimism sound so much smarter than optimism?
Yeah, exactly.
We have to look at evolutionary biology. Organisms that treat threats as more urgent than opportunities simply survive better over the long run of history.
Makes sense.
Imagine 2 early humans on the savannah. One is an optimist, one is a pessimist. They both hear a rustle in the bushes. The optimist assumes it's just the wind.
The pessimist assumes it's a tiger.
Right. If the optimist is wrong once, they get eaten and their genes are removed from the gene pool entirely.
Game over.
If the pessimist is wrong 99 times, they just experience unnecessary anxiety, but they survive to reproduce.
We are the descendants of the pessimists.
We are hardwired to assume the worst. The writer Daniel Defoe actually documented this perfectly all the way back in the 1700s during the plagues of London.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He observed that when people were surrounded by the horrific uncertainty of the plague, they became completely desperate for predictions. They sought out prophets, astrologers, and doomsday criers.
Just looking for any kind of answer?
Exactly. They demanded forecasts because the sheer state of not knowing is deeply painful to the human psyche.
We haven't changed at all. We just swapped out the astrologers for financial pundits on cable news.
That's entirely true.
We still want someone to tell us exactly what the stock market will do tomorrow, even though we know deep down that nobody actually knows.
Panic feels like action. Selling your stocks during a crash feels like you are taking control of a dangerous situation, when in reality, you are just sabotaging your own survival.
But hearing all of this makes me wonder if we've survived, right? If we've avoided the shiny Ferraris, respected luck, ignored the moving goalposts, built our margin of safety, and let our money compound quietly in the background. Yeah.
What is the actual point of doing all of this? Why build wealth at all? Are we just trying to die with the highest possible number in a bank account?
That is the ultimate question. What is the end game of money?
Right.
The realization that most people miss until it's way too late is that the ultimate goal of money is not to buy things. The highest, most valuable utility of money is to buy freedom.
It is the ability to control your own time.
Exactly. The highest form of wealth, the absolute pinnacle of financial success, is waking up every single morning and being able to look in the mirror and say, I can do whatever I want today.
Autonomy is the true currency of happiness.
It really is. We often think that getting a dream job will make us happy. But doing something you ostensibly love, on a schedule you cannot control with people you don't like, feels exactly the same as doing something you hate.
The lack of autonomy just destroys the joy.
Let's break down how buying time actually works in practice, because it's a spectrum. Start small.
Having just a modest emergency fund, a few $1,000s of invisible wealth, gives you the ability to take a sick day when you have the flu without the terror of missing a rent payment or going bankrupt.
That alone is a massive shift in power over your own time and physical health.
And as that invisible wealth grows, your options expand exponentially. A bit more unspent money gives you the flexibility to quit a toxic, abusive job and take a lower-paying but infinitely more flexible job that lets you pick your kids up from school.
It allows you to survive a medical emergency without the crushing, suffocating anxiety of high-interest debt hanging over your recovery.
The modern world has sold us a toxic illusion, the illusion of the perpetual hustle.
Oh, absolutely.
The idea that you need to be working at 2 a.m. in a WeWork space, grinding away, sleeping on a sofa in your office, sacrificing your relationships just to hit the next arbitrary financial milestone.
We treat burnout as a badge of honor.
We do. But no one, literally no one, looks back on their life from their deathbed and wishes they had spent more time trapped in a cubicle pursuing a marginal increase in income at the expense of their autonomy.
The ultimate dividend in finance isn't a 10% yield on a tech stock. It is using your money to buy back your own life.
Yes. If you are spending your money in a way that traps you into a rigid, unforgiving schedule, taking on massive debt for cars and houses to impress people who don't actually care about you, you are building your own prison.
You are using your money to limit your options rather than expand them.
I challenge everyone listening to audit your own life right now. Look at your bank account, look at your monthly expenses, look at your debts.
Are you using your money to build a prison of obligations?
Or are you using your unspent money, your true invisible wealth, to buy autonomy, flexibility, and peace of mind?
It's a complete paradigm shift. We have covered a massive amount of psychological ground today, and it all loops back to that core premise. Financial success is not about being the smartest person in the room.
Not at all.
The guy who invented the Wi-Fi router went broke because his ego required constant visible validation. Ronald Read, the janitor, died a multimillionaire because he mastered his behavior. He didn't need the world to know he was wealthy.
It is about saving, simply to save, without needing a specific consumer goal. It is about checking your ego at the door, building massive room for error into your plans, and respecting the invisible, uncontrollable forces of luck and risk that govern our world.
It's recognizing that true wealth is the unspent money that buys your freedom.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, consider this final implication. We talked extensively about how true wealth is what you don't see. The car's not bought. The upgrades declined.
Right.
If true wealth is completely invisible to others, it means that the ultimate state of financial success is becoming entirely unimpressive to strangers, while simultaneously becoming completely invaluable to yourself and your family.
Let that sink in. Becoming unimpressive to strangers. Next time you feel the urge to buy something just to show off or to prove to the world that you are successful, ask yourself one simple question. Am I trading my own future time and freedom for a stranger's fleeting glance?
A powerful question.
It really is. If you want to master the psychology of money, stop trying to impress the street and start buying back your life. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Think about how you can start applying these soft skills today. Until next time.